So hello and welcome to the 37th episode of the Spotlight Podcast, the unofficial podcast for Century 21 sales representatives in Canada, where we discuss the hot topics and important news in the real estate industry. So I'm your host, Linas Kilius. With me, as always, is Eryn Richardson. How's it going, Eryn?
Good. How are you, Linus?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. So
Eryn is a broker and general manager with Century 21 Heritage Group. Eryn has an extensive background in online marketing, technology, and customer service. And I'm the head of business development at the real estate marketing company, Homeania. So advertising on the internet can be a daunting task. Frankly, most agents don't know where to start. Some might first look towards Google and advertising through AdSense, but is that really the best way to spend your money? Social media networks, particularly Facebook, has grown drastically over the past few years on the back of advertising revenue. As it turns out, Facebook is a great platform for generating leads and improving your exposure. But how do you advertise on Facebook, and how do you most effectively spend your money to create those converted leads everyone so covets? Well, today we're going to be talking about paid advertising on Facebook and some strategies all agents should be implementing to get the most out of this social media network. But first, there was some interesting news today that came out of Toronto. To curb the hot housing market in Southern Ontario, the Ontario government has decided to institute quite a few new things. Sounds like they're going to be effective tomorrow. A 15% home purchasers tax by non-resident foreigners, similar to what was recently instituted in the Vancouver area. It's funny because I think they were saying when the Vancouver one came out that this was off the table, but now it's back on apparently.
Yeah. This
will apply to the greater Golden Horseshoe, so it's not just Toronto and the GTA. So it's from Barrie to Waterloo and from Peterborough to Niagara. They've also decided to do several other things as well, and we're going to talk about a few of those here. They talked about expanding existing rent control systems and standardizing lease documents to ease affordability for renters. They've decided to encourage building of more rental housing by offering a rebate of development costs development cost charges to developers. They've decided to ban assignment flipping, so that's pre-construction units selling by speculators. They've also decided to review rules governing the conduct of real estate agents in conjunction with RICO and AREA. Specifically, what they mentioned was dual representation and potentially banning that out. I think this is more they're going to take a look into it and come up with a recommendation. But many other provinces outside of Ontario have already banned it or have altered how dual representation can be handled. So, Eryn, this is a lot to digest. What are your initial thoughts with all of this?
I don't know. Some of the measures, it seems reasonable. Other measures, you just don't want them to get involved in, because as soon as they get involved, they can really mess it up. And even saying dual representation, that's an old term. I don't know where they're getting their information from. Multiple representation is the correct term. And so you wonder, with the politicians and where they are getting and how quickly they're getting the information. The market seems like it's really adjusting itself on its own, which it typically does. So, are they talking about something that was a 4-month, back 4 months ago was an issue, and now's it's not an issue anymore. And now they're going to implement these things, and it could burst this bubble that they don't want to do. So you got to be careful with all these things, and I'm a little nervous about that.
Do you think a lot of this is because, so we're not too far away from a provincial election, and the Ontario Liberal government has, almost like record low approval ratings. So maybe this is an attempt to try and curb that to a certain degree?
No, I don't know if that's the case either. I mean, there'll be a good population density that kind of likes their price of their houses going up right now, taking advantage of retiring and moving further north, and being mortgage free and moving farther north. There's a lot of advantages to on a higher market. The unfortunate part is the affordability. We always think about our kids. So are they going to be able to afford homes? And I don't think you should take a 4-month blip in the market to make major decisions like this. I know there's a 33 or 30% increase year over year for the last 3-4 months. But if you're a real estate agent in the Greater Toronto area right now, we're talking a different talk today. We're talking about no multiples. My house, the house we put up on the market, didn't get any offers. Prices are coming down. People are starting to get nervous about the fact that there's now 12,000 listings on the Toronto Real Estate Board. That's healthy now, or it's getting there. We were at 4,000, a month ago. So it's tripled the inventory in the last, 3 weeks almost. So
kind of ironically, it seems like the timing out in Vancouver was fairly similar. There was adjustments taking place as the 15% home purchasers tax out there got put in place, and a lot of people point and say, well, look what it did, and a lot of other people will say, well, it was doing that anyways.
Right.
So I guess maybe we can go over these a little bit point by point here. Let's talk about the 15% home purchasers tax. Is foreign investment as much of an issue as everyone makes it to be? And is this going to make foreign investors look elsewhere? And maybe is this even a problem, because foreign investment can be a good thing. It contributes to the GDP.
There was a very good report that was done that says it's 5% of the market, which is a very small percentage. So would the market have been any different? Would it be 25% up instead of 30% up? I mean, that's what they're saying if you take out foreign investment completely. The unfortunate part is we as real estate agents keep saying foreign investment, and I've said this in the past. It's not really foreign investment we're talking about. It is the investors, and typically in Ontario, a lot of the investors with a lot of money happen to be residents of Canada, but the money is coming from overseas. So it's actually residents with money coming from other countries. There's a different definition I think we have to look at.
And maybe this is the case where it does affect such a small segment, it won't have a very major impact on everything, but it is something that they have to be, I guess the politicians feel like they have to be perceived to be doing something. And this is the easy, obvious thing, I guess, to do, since especially Vancouver's already implemented it as well.
Well, I think the pressure was put on the Liberal government to do something. So, and without causing any major up or shift in the market, these are small things. And are they going to affect the market? Well, yeah, in certain areas, similar to Vancouver, the high-end homes start to get affected, and some of the investment areas. But in general sense, they said, the other areas were just typical market conditions.
And I think we talked about it on a past episode when they did this in Vancouver as well. Non-resident Canadians are not voters as well, right? So if you're going to put the pressure on someone, that's an easy place to put it if you're a politician as well.
Well, I got to tell you, the worst comment that this week was made from John Tory in Toronto. The mayor of Toronto was saying that it's our fault as real estate agents. We push the market up. And I mean, it's just the most ridiculous comment to make. It actually makes them, sound very uninformed and not knowledgeable about what real estate's about. Market price is what a buyer will pay. And we are there to work on behalf of our sellers. And we do a good job for our sellers getting the best price. But the market dictates market. We don't dictate market.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next point then too. Well, I guess a couple points maybe together, because it looks like they're trying to ease affordability for renters as well. So like I mentioned before, they're talking about expanding rent control. So previously rent control was only on buildings built prior to 1991. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Eryn. But now it's all buildings, and rent increases will be tied to government mandated inflation rates or some sort of parameter, which was last year 1.5%.
Yeah, and that's been done in the past. There's nothing new there other than the 1991 prior to, right?
Yeah. And I mean, for those who are landlords too, you can apply for exceptions to this if you've got an argument there. And then also they're looking at encouraging building of more rental housing by giving some incentives to developers as well. So we were talking off camera. Do you think rental is an issue here?
I don't get it. This is fairly new to me. I always thought, the rental market was actually getting more affordable in the markets that I deal in. So more rentals are on the market because of the speculation and the investors. So now we're trying to curb investment, which would actually bring the market to be less affordable, because the more supply, obviously, the lesser price. So I think, I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. I like some of the measures taken with the 1991 thing and all the rest of it. That's fine. I get that, but to say that we don't have enough affordable housing, I don't know if that's the case or not. Maybe it's on the affordable end of things. But as far as I know, in our area, we've got so many rentals on the market right now, which is actually driving the rental price down. So, I'm not sure where that is coming from.
Well, and again, too, with foreign investments say. Like there's also the vacancy tax they're talking about putting in as well. You think that will increase the number of rental units too, because people aren't going to want to keep their properties vacant any longer. It's just as an investment. So.
Yeah, well, and that makes sense. We don't want to see houses vacant and overgrown, and it affects affects our neighborhoods.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the next point was the banning of assignment flipping as well. Do you think this is a good thing? What are your speculations on this, and how is that going to affect things?
Well, that could really affect the condo market. There was driven by a lot of, the condo market might be affected the most in all of this, because I do see a lot of, I'm going to say, foreign investments or just speculators, investors with the condo market. It was such a popular thing, not popular, it was such a benefit for an investor to be able to sell what he's purchased prior to completion of the project. There are other people that aren't doing it for the money. You've bought something, it's gone up in price. You've got other ways you want to invest, and you should be able to sell off your purchase prior to close if somebody wants to buy it. So I'm going to sort of go on record as saying I don't know if that's such a good thing or not. I think if you've purchased something and you want to resell it, I think you should be okay with doing it. And the condo or the developers are already have already put measures into place of how many times you can flip it, or if you can flip it at all, or the costs associated. So I'd sort of leave that up to the market as well. I don't know if I'd touch that one.
Yeah, you mentioned that this could be an issue for just your average homeowner looking to get out of their potential, pre-construction purchase already, because some of these, pre-construction units, they'll be 5 years before they're built type thing, like with delays and everything too, could even be longer. That's a long time to have your money potentially tied up. I know it's only a deposit and such, but you might want to get out of that. Situations for everyone can change in that amount of time too.
Well, somebody can lose their job, somebody go to a different situation in their life where they need the money, or situations in their life where, you no longer can afford the mortgage when it comes to close. So, where 5 years ago you're in a great position. So being able to turn it around and flip it, I think you should be able to do that. Like name anything that, name a certain type of investment where you purchase it or buy into it there where, somebody can just take it away from you 3 years later just because, you can't resell it. I mean, you should be able to do that, I think.
Yeah, and I guess we don't know the details of this yet too, so maybe it's a little bit premature to speculate. Maybe there's some sort of time limit, so after like having it for a year, you're free to flip it or whatnot. I'm sure there must be some sort of restrictions on it. It seems like it'd be a little bit naive to ban it outright.
Well, I got to tell you what they have to do, and this is stuff that hasn't been talked about. And this includes flipping, investors, capital gains tax. Stop the loopholes. It's ridiculous right now what people are getting away with when it comes to their tax implications for flipping. And it's the same thing in the mortgage industry. All these investors are getting mortgages through not the right means. And I know this happens, and we've put a stop to it a few times when we see it within our own brokerage, and we see some buyers getting approved for things that they shouldn't be approved for, and finding out the mortgage brokers are not doing the proper documentation or forging documentation to get people approved. And I think that's a rampant problem right now in certain communities, and they really have to look at that.
But it's not the big one that's taking hold of the media right now, and that's always the issue.
But it will. I'll put it down and right. That will come to light, and that is going to be a major problem, because I believe that there's a lot of that going on.
Well, you've heard it here first.
There you go.
And then the final bit too that they were talking about was reviewing the governing of conduct of real estate agents in conjunction with both RICO and OREA, specifically the whole dual representation, multiple representation agreements, or sorry, not agreements, but dual representation, multiple representation situations that can arise. Obviously, this came to the general public's attention when it was maybe 6 months ago or so, when CBC did a bit of an expose on a few agents that were, not being the most forthcoming with their dual representation. So what do you think about this, I mean, a lot of other provinces already have a lot higher restriction on these situations than we do in Ontario.
Yeah. Well, we have internal measures within our brokerage to deal with that. I'm not saying all brokerages have it, but when you do have a situation where you're representing more than one person in a transaction and it's in multiple offer scenario, we always tell our agents that it's our policy to have somebody else represent, or I say represent, to negotiate on behalf. Now, I shouldn't even say negotiate on behalf, because put it this way, they look after that end of things, because when you're talking multiple representation, the negotiation part has sort of been taken out from the rules. You should not be negotiating. You should be letting both sides decide what they want to do themselves. However, having two people separately, not knowing what other offers and what's happening on the, with the other offers, does eliminate that opportunity for somebody to do something unethical. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there should be within RICO's guidelines something done with regards to registration of offers and multiple offer scenarios. We currently don't have anything that mandates how those are done. So, we should maybe look at some of that stuff. I hate to say it. I just hope it's not the government that looks at it, because they're not real estate agents. They don't quite understand what's happening in the industry. So that's where I'm a little nervous as to who's going to make these rules. And that includes RICO. A lot of RICO is not industry personnel that they sort of knows what's happening.
Yeah, one thing to, I guess, make you sleep a little better at night too, they're just saying they're reviewing the rules. It's not like they've made any decisions at this point. So I for sure hope that there's going to be a lot of consultation. It's done in conjunction with RICO and OREA. So you'd imagine there's going to be a lot of consultation with real estate agents and as well as boards coming along through this process.
Hopefully.
Okay, so that's what news has come out of Toronto recently. Let's move into our main segment. I mean, I guess that kind of was most of our main segment, so maybe we'll just briefly go through the Facebook stuff we're going to talk about.
Sure.
So Eryn, a lot of people know about Google. Like, is Facebook a better place to spend your money?
It's overwhelming now. I mean, I've talked about it for years in terms of what I've found as Facebook is much more targeted. There are certain things that Google can do in terms of home evaluations and things that people look for on Google. But for the most part, Facebook's really taken over the market when it comes to identifying certain demographics and really knowing. I mean, the metrics involved with Facebook right now is just incredible. The stuff that they know about people, which is kind of scary in a way, but knowing what they know and being able to say, I want to target somebody who is considering selling their house, and Facebook already knows where that demographic is, pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, the fact that you can have your activity monitored, and they know everything you like. Yeah. They know your age. They know if you're like in a relationship to all these things that you select on Facebook. Don't really think about it, right? With your status and even just putting your updates in. Facebook obviously creates a profile on each person, and they can use this for essentially selling to advertisers. I mean, it's all anonymous. It's not like they're selling your information and saying, Eryn Richardson is this old and this and such, but they can use it to target ads towards Eryn if they're looking for someone in his age demographic with his specific interests. And that's powerful for us too, though, as advertisers looking to target certain demographics. It's not like you're putting in an ad that's going to be seen by like a 15-year-old with no purchasing power. You can specifically target for whatever demographic you're specifically looking for. And
the demographics that we're talking about used to be just, I want to somebody between the ages of 20 and 30 who live in this area that might like certain like cooking or something like that. But they've really expanded this. And I don't know if you know this, Linus. I just found this the other day. The 4 top, and now I know it's Google, Facebook. I'm going to speculate and say it's probably Amazon, probably maybe Twitter, Pinterest, something like that. But the top companies with space online have gotten together and they're doing a shared pool of information. So now that it's cross-platformed. So now not only will Facebook know how old you are and all this kind of stuff, but they're taking the information from Google as well and sharing it with everybody. So they know everything. if you're online at all, they know that you've been recently looking at purchasing printers or you've been recently on realtor.ca looking for houses you're more potential to buy, or you've been, recently searching for agents to do home evaluations or whatever. So it's really powerful stuff for us.
So tinfoil hat sailors are going to go through the roof after this episode, I guess.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that too. I was going to say that Google generally, when you advertise there, they do have demographics and such you can target, but it isn't quite as pinpoint as Facebook. Google can tell a lot of like location, search history, that kind of thing, but Facebook has a really good way of getting your interests and stuff really nailed down very specifically too. So when you're advertising on Facebook, do you need to be active in social media to get the benefit there? Because a lot of people say, well, you can't just pay social media to have a good social media presence. You have to be involved in the network to get the biggest benefit out of it. So can you, without even having a Facebook account, well, I mean, obviously you need a Facebook account, but without having an active one, get the most out of it?
You need to have a Facebook account, and you need to have I don't know what to call it anymore, but a business page, a place page, a page, right? So you have to have one of those pages in order to do advertising, but you no longer need to be active on Facebook. And in fact, to be active on Facebook is really just good for your sphere of influence, the people that know you. The other side of Facebook is all the paid analytics, metrics stuff. And that is what's extremely powerful right now. And so you can go on there and spend $50 this month and reach targeted people that would consider using you as a real estate agent for different reasons. So, and you need to have, it's getting pretty technical, so you need to have some knowledge with regards to sort of that demographic metrics, landing pages, what to say to get people to click, and then, converting the lead. So there is a whole lead generation aspect of that business, but it is powerful.
So is that what your ultimate advertising goal should be? Just trying to get landing page conversions, like people coming to a landing page and getting their lead information that way? Or is there other benefits to Facebook advertising as well? Maybe you're looking for likes or page views, or maybe just branding.
Yeah. The experts are, likes mean nothing anymore. I mean, it used to be that you go on there and get as many likes as possible. Therefore, you can market to people through just, you don't have to pay for the advertising. But Facebook's really put a lot of stop to that. Before, when you like something and or you posted something, if people like it, it gets out to thousands of people because it just becomes a little viral. But they've put an end to that. I don't know if you've posted anything lately and you've got 200 views would be great. Usually you'll get 58 or 100 or something like that views. It used to be thousands, but now you have to boost the post. You have to pay for the advertising in order to really reach the audience.
So that's the next question I have too. It's a perfect segue. What is the best way? Because there are multiple ways you can advertise on Facebook. You can boost posts. You can just pay for ad space. You can do promotional posts. Like, what's the best way to go about advertising on Facebook? Is it just simply boosting posts that you're putting up there with landing page links on them?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is boosting your post. You have a post there, you think that it's a good one, like I just listed 123 Main Street, I want to get it to as many people as possible, and then you just bring them to your virtual tour site. So it's a bit of a branding thing. Hopefully they interact with you, want to see the property. So that's the easiest way, and you just boost post to a certain area, certain demographic in terms of age, and it'll just have the basic metrics. So that's where I'd start. But if you really want to get into the really targeted 10% type conversion rate, you're going to need to get into the Facebook advertising and managing campaigns.
Yeah, well, boosting posts is certainly the easiest way. Any post that you post will have a little boost post button. And as Eryn was mentioning before, getting people to like your post or just posting something doesn't mean it's going to go to all your followers. Facebook's got a proprietary algorithm that determines who gets to see any post that you make. And, only a small percentage of the people that have liked your page or followed your business page are going to be able to see those posts. But as soon as you hit that boost post button, you can start getting guaranteed reach. And Facebook's smart because they knew this, and I guess that's probably why they implemented it, so people would pay money to make sure that you can get more of that guaranteed reach to your followers, but also friends of followers and just the general public as well. Which is another thing too, because you can target who you want to look at there too, and maybe your followers aren't the people that you want to send it to. You want to make sure it goes out to the general public, not necessarily your sphere of influence, depending what it is.
Yes, and it's really good. I mean, really, I'm looking to target somebody within York Region, which is the area, your York Region, that's looking to buy within the next 6 months, and excluding real estate agents. There's ways to do that. So you can really pinpoint and not have to spend money on people that you don't want. You don't put it this way: in our local paper, if we advertise as a real estate agent, it's just going to the real estate agents. Well, the other agents, the only ones that seem to care about who's posting stuff in the paper and stuff like that anymore. But you're paying for a full demographics of people. 98% of them don't care. Well, here's where you're going to be able to go to, let's say, a population where 60% do care, right? So you're really able to spend some money in the right areas, and it doesn't have to be a lot of money either, right? So you can change. Yeah, so it's really effective.
What we've really seen over the past decade or so is the shift towards advertising becoming a lot more efficient. And a lot of people are very nervous about some of the stuff we talked about, saying, well, Facebook and Google, they know pretty much everything about you. They probably know more about you than maybe your wife, right? Like a lot of cases too. And that might seem like a scary thing, but really now they can target you with ads that are relevant to you and things that make sense for you to see. So you're not going on and seeing ads about, I don't know, like widgets when you're not interested in widgets, right? They're only showing you, maybe like houses and things if that's what you've been searching around for, houses for sale and such. And that can be a good thing because it's improving the advertising that you're seeing there instead of watching TV and watching the same ad over and over again and getting kind of annoyed.
Well, I get annoyed. All the YouTube videos now, the advertising, it comes up every 30 seconds. It's getting pretty ridiculous.
And you just got to think, though, that advertising is tailored to you. So whatever you're seeing is yes. What Google thinks that you should see, Eryn. So
I know.
You probably shouldn't tell anybody what you're seeing there because it might tell some about what you've been.
I'm getting all this Dora the Explorer stuff. And, can my kids on, watching all these videos for kids shows and stuff, right?
I know that feeling.
I think it's me that's seeing it.
I know that feeling. On Netflix, too, all the recommended shows are all kid shows. I'm sitting there being like, I actually want some adult shows here recommended for myself, too. But I guess that's just the nature of having kids and browsing for stuff for them online. But, hey, I guess it works. So you actually had a meeting with a social media consultant.
Mm-hmm. I learned lots. Yeah, learned lots of stuff from the social media consultant. And you know what? I'd suggest even the people that think they know everything should still try and get as much. And I think everybody knows this now. The information changes daily. So anytime you get an opportunity to pick somebody else's brain to see what they're doing and help us with our business is amazing. So is there anything that you glean from that you might want to talk about before we close the show? Well, I mean, there's a lot of tips and tricks, right? Yeah. So stuff that that they've really honed. All the stuff I was talking about before I was doing, right? I was doing the metrics, but I didn't realize how powerful the metrics are. So there's some stuff in there that he, targeted reach and little neat things. Here's one, when you are doing a Facebook campaign, let it run at the least amount for 7 days. So $5 a day for 7 days. After 7 days, Facebook actually figures it out as to who is the best targeted market, and then they hone it. So you'll actually see a huge spike after 7 days of conversion rates, because they figured it out now. So they say, spend $5 for 7 days, and then after 7 days, then you ramp it up to $20 a day or whatever you want to do the lifetime of the campaign. Little things like that. I guess you'd have to be a social media consultant almost to know. And one thing I do want to caution listeners too, especially if maybe it's a year from now and you're listening to this episode, like things change pretty fast. Yeah. So you gotta be careful. A lot of techniques and tips that may have worked a year ago may be completely invalid now. So these are the kinds of things you got to make sure you stay up on, and kind of keep your knowledge fresh, or else things may change. Like I could just see it. Somebody calling me, you told me the 7 days rule and all this kind of stuff. And it's like 2019 now. And it's a completely different algorithm. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point, actually. Yeah. So it's just something to keep in mind. I do notice a lot of people who are pitching, the big snake oil thing is people come pitching SEO and how they can fix your SEO. I get spammy about it all the time, but a lot of people will say things that may have been valid 10 years ago, but they'll actually end up hurting you these days. That's right. Get you blacklisted and such by Google, and there's nothing worse than that happening.
So just
I should mention something that Century 21 is implementing that everybody needs to be aware of and start to use is the Realtor rating system. Because when you're talking about anything online, ratings where it's at, and we have a great system now in place that's coming out that just makes sure that you do get on that. It should be an automated system, but I think the more you interact with it and the more that you let your customer know that this rating is going to come out and they get them to rate you, the more ratings you're going to have, more leads.
For sure. And we talked about that actually in depth in a couple episodes ago. So feel free to check that out on Realtor ratings. So I think this is probably a good place to close off the show. We've had a longer than usual one because we had so much news to go over. Maybe we'll kind of rehash it a little bit again, some of that news that we went over after a little bit of the more like formal details have been put in place. But for now, let's close off the show. So if you like the show, subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts online. And please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on some of those sites because it really helps. You can watch this and past shows at spotlight.century21.ca/podcast. If you need to reach us, you can email us anytime at podcast@homeania.com. That's podcast at HOM as in Mary, EAN as in Nancy, IA.com. So this podcast is brought to you by the Spotlight Marketing Program, an exclusive marketing package available only to Century 21 agents in Canada. Spotlight provides agents with a comprehensive internet marketing strategy for their listings. Provide high-quality HDR photography, stunning HD video tours, 3D mapping virtual tours, a cutting-edge responsive website, and an extensive advertising system that will help sell your listings faster, sell them for more money, impress your clients, and generate leads. So find out why so many top agents are using Spotlight by visiting spotlight.century21.ca today. Thanks for listening. Eryn, thanks again.
Thanks, Linus. Take care.